Okay, we are now recording. So, welcome everyone. We're here for our second JAWS webinar where we will be focusing on navigating the internet using JAWS. And in particular, we're going to be working in Internet Explorer today. I say we, but I really mean Darren's going to be working in Internet Explorer today and showing you how JAWS interacts with different websites and HTML, which is hypertext markup language. And our opening code today is what, Darren?
Screen.
Screen. SCREEN, screen. Then after Darren goes over navigating the internet, we will ask you some evaluation questions and give you the closing code. If you want to receive credit for this webinar, the homework is to write a measurable goal and 2 objectives for navigating the internet with JAWS. All right, Darren, I'm going to pass it on over to you.
Okay, as Andrea said, my name is Darren Porter, and I'm one of the Access Technology Specialists here at FIMC. And as she mentioned before, we are going to be talking about using JAWS, which is a screen reader for a Windows-based computer, on the internet. On our previous webinar earlier this week, we discussed what a screen reader is and where to get JAWS from Freedom Scientific. So I'm not really going to go over that information again, but I strongly encourage you, if you did not see the previous webinar or are watching, particularly if you're watching this archive and not live, and have not seen the previous one, I would strongly recommend that you go back and watch the JAWS webinar 1 first, because we did go over some vocabulary and we went over a little bit of general information about JAWS and about Freedom Scientific and the limitations of screen readers and so on and so forth. And that's probably important information unless you are very familiar with screen readers already and what they can and cannot do. So that's where we'd like to begin today. We're talking about, the first thing I'd like to talk about is what is HTML? And HTML, as Andrea said, is hypertext markup language, and it is the universal language of the internet. It is how all internet pages are created and marked up. And so there is a lot of similarities between web pages, but as I've mentioned before, creating a web page is art. And so there are about as many different ways to create a web page as there are people out there creating them. And that can, from time to time, pose some significant problems for a screen reader which is expecting certain behaviors from certain screen elements and expecting certain markup here and there so that it can understand what's going on. So there are web pages out there that do not really work very well at all with a screen reader and with JAWS in particular. One of them, just as a side note, happens to be the software that we are using today, the website we are using today to produce this webinar. My partner Andrea is kind of behind me to my left and controlling my computer with her Bluetooth mouse. So because JAWS will not interact very well at all with Adobe Connect, which is what we are using. So, but a good many websites, however, are available with JAWS and can work very well with JAWS. And it just requires, because of the complexity of many, many websites, it requires some getting used to working with JAWS. Now, one thing that I want to try to explain to you about the way JAWS works with a website is JAWS creates what they call an off-site model, an off-screen model of a website, which means JAWS usually puts all of the information on the web page in a giant list. So it's one column of a newspaper, one big long list of things. And JAWS attempts to determine to order that list in the most logical way. And sometimes it fails miserably at it, and sometimes it does a pretty good job. But when you are working with a student and using JAWS, or just when you're working with JAWS by yourself and you're looking at the screen, sometimes you're going to wonder when you use the up and down arrows, for example, to move through the web page, or even when you use a tab key to tab between links on a web page, why it's not moving around the screen in the order you think it should move around the screen. And that is just simply because of the attempt to create the offsite model to make it possible for a screen reader user to interpret the information on the page. And so what I want to talk about now is moving around in an HTML document. One thing about HTML documents and the Internet Explorer is JAWS follows an insertion point in most programs, such as Microsoft Word, and anywhere where you're doing a lot of typing and a lot of interaction with the computer. Well, you cannot type in an HTML document except for within special edit fields and other areas that allow you to type. So what Freedom Scientific has done with JAWS is they have taken some of the letter keys and turned them into navigation keys so that you can very quickly move around an HTML document and find the information that you need. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to look at our website here, which is a relatively simple website to get started with. And we're going to see how some of these navigation keys allow you to quickly find information. Okay.
Alt tab, job access, alt tab, ArcSoft Magic, alt tab, job access, alt tab, job access, alt tab, desktop, alt tab, FIMC-VI, the Florida Instructional Materials Center for the Visual FIMC.
Okay, here we are on the website, and you can hear JAWS talking in the background.
FIMC-
and what I'm going to do is show you some of these navigational keys. First of all, if you hit B, it will take you to the next button on the page.
Send button.
And which happens to be a send button for the search box. I just happen to know that because I'm familiar with this page. Oh, I forgot. Let me.
JAWS context menu options.
I forgot to do that.
Enter basic stock voices.
He is working on it. That's all.
Basic voices sub menu. V.
We
Enter.
did that last time. We did slow it down.
Enter leaving menus. Voice adjustment dialog. Profile name : combo box. Eloquence tab. Delete pro tab. Synthesizer tab. Speaks tab. Voice adjust : combo box. All content tab. Voice rate : 74. Left right slide 20%. 21%, 22%, 24%.
Is that better?
That's where we had it be at 25% right before.
Yeah, I think so. Either that or 30. But this worked. No, you had it at 30. 25 works.
Combo box. Most 3 of 4 tab. Voice tab. Voice up tab. OK button to act tab. Save as ... button to tab. Apply button to activate. Enter. Profile name shift tab. Save as ... button to tab. Cancel button to activate.
That's better.
Shift tab. Save as ... shift tab. OK button to activate. Press space bar.
What's on the screen right now should be the FIMC website. And that's what he's working in now. Can you see the FIMC website, Donna?
Okay, perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right. Go ahead, Darren.
Sorry about that. We've been fighting with technology today, and I never thought about slowing JAWS down. Anyway, like I said, the B moves by buttons, and the C moves by combo boxes, but I don't think they're already on this page. The E moves by edit boxes, and there are a couple of edit boxes, so I'm going to go back to the top of the screen, and we're going to look for an edit box. And we're not going to find any one.
No window is active. Press Windows key plus M.
Focus.
Alt tab. Job access with Alt tab. ArcSoft Alt tab. Job access Alt tab. Job back Alt tab. Desktop Alt tab. FIMC-VI.
Okay, let's see.
Edit contains text.
We found an edit box by hitting the E, and somehow we don't have any good text to tell us what we're supposed to do with this edit box. So I'm going to up arrow and see if it has a heading above it.
Blank. Your email address will not be published. Blank. Blank. Blank.
No, this is an edit box that actually it's for sending a comment to FIMC. I just know that because I have read the rest of the page, but unfortunately this particular edit box is not labeled. Let's see if the next one is.
Edit required your name star.
Yes, this one is labeled, and it says, so JAWS is reading that this is a required edit field if you want to send a comment to FIMC, and it wants your name. And we hit E again for the next edit box.
Edit required email star.
Required email. And this is your email address you're supposed to put in here.
Edit website.
And then if you have a website, and this is not a required one, you type it in here. So anyway, that's what the E does when you're in HTML. Now, I'm sure some of you are going to ask the very relevant question of, well, if these letters move you around the screen, how can I type in these fields? Well, what happens with JAWS is when you are in HTML mode using your up and down arrows and these keys to move to around the screen, when you get to a form control, they call them, that you can interact with, whether it be a combo box, an edit box, or what have you, JAWS automatically detects that and changes and turns on what's called forms mode.
Blank.
And when forms mode gets turned on, I'm above the website edit box now, and when I move down into this edit box with a down arrow,
Edit.
you can hear the popping sound. I think they call that a balloon popping sound that JAWS has used to indicate that I'm now in forms mode. So I can now type anything I want in this edit field. And when I get through with it, if I move away from this edit box, you will hear
Blank.
another lower pitched balloon popping sound, which means I'm now back into HTML navigation mode. And so that is how you interact with controls on the screen. And older versions of JAWS did not have auto detection, and so you had to turn it on. And sometimes, even in this version of JAWS, which is 16, it automatically doesn't detect and turn on forms mode. And so to turn forms mode on, if it's not on, you have to hit the plus on the numpad key, or the enter key will turn forms mode off, and the escape key or the plus again on the number pad, if you have a number pad on a laptop with one or on a desktop computer, will get you back out of forms mode and back into HTML navigation mode. Now, the next letter navigation is an F, and that takes you to any form control, whether it be a button or an edit field or a combo box or whatever. So if you're just looking for any form control on the website, you can use the F and get there. G finds graphics. H finds headings. And this is about my favorite navigation, because I'm usually looking for information on the internet. So I'm looking for static text and like a newspaper article or a Wikipedia article or something like that. And I'm always looking for things of that nature. So I'm always, and a lot of times they mark up static text with headings at certain heading levels. And so I'm looking for a heading, and I use this H all the time. And let's see if there's any headings on this page.
iPad accessibility number 2 heading level 5 link.
Yes, there is an iPad accessibility heading that we found.
FDLRS technology meeting heading level 5 link.
There's a meeting announcement at level 5. Now, the other thing that you can understand about headings is that you can use 1 through 6 on the number row above the letter keys on the keyboard to go to headings at specific heading levels. Now, once you get to know websites and see how they are created, and you'll know that, for example, the beginning of the next article on the newspaper, or maybe at heading level 3, or the beginning of the next major section, like the sports section, might be at heading level 1. And so you can very quickly use the numbers 1 through 6 to move to headings at various levels. But this is probably the one that I use the absolute most, is the headings navigation key. The L will find lists on the page if there's a list of information formatted into a list. The M will find frames. if this website does not use frames, so it will not find anything on this page. The N will find next non-linked text, which is basically plain text on the screen. And that's sometimes handy too if you're looking for, if you're in all this kind of navigation controls and other Facebook things and other controls, and you want to just skip all past that and go to the gist of the website, go to the information, which is usually just in plain text, and you can use that N to find all occurrences of just plain text. P will find paragraphs. If you're in plain text, it will skip to the next paragraph. T will find tables if there are tables on the website. And U will find unvisited links, and V will find visited links. Now, if you're looking for a link on a website, any link on a website, you can go to use the U, and it will go through the links. If you are looking for a link you visited earlier and want to return to it, if you use V, it will go to visited links. And so those are some of the single letter, single button controls to get around a website. Now, the way this works is if you use the lowercase letter, like we've talked about before, you are searching forward through the website from where your focus point is when you start hitting the letter. If you use a shift key and the letter, you are going to move backwards through the website, back up towards the top of the page. Now they will wrap around. If you get to the very last, say, visited link, and you hit the V again, it will wrap to the top and go to the first visited link on the page. Now, I tell you all that because those are just quick and easy things to do to manipulate around a web page. Now, I want to show you another way to organize information on a web page so that you can quickly find the information that you're looking for. And we're going to go to the HTML attributes dialog box, which looks like this.
Virtual HTML features dialog. List 1, list view. Anchors list 1 of 9.
And we have a list here of everything that we can.
What was the shortcut
key? The shortcut key for that is insert F3 or caps lock F3 if you're using a laptop computer without a numeric keypad. And what we have here is we have all of the things that I can look for and put into a list.
Block quotes list. Buttons list.
Buttons.
Checkboxes list.
Checkboxes.
Combo boxes list.
Divisions
list.
Divisions.
Edit boxes list. Form fields list. Frames list. Graphics list. Headings list.
Now let's go to headings, because I've always found headings one of the most useful thing in working on a website, and see what we get.
Enter. New tab page. FDLRS technology meeting heading level.
Okay, we have headings here.
Leave a comment about us : 1.
And we have
Leave about us : 1.
about us, and it's at heading level 1.
Leave a comment, cancel reply : 3.
Leave a comment, cancel reply at heading level 3.
iPad accessibility number 2: 5.
iPad accessibility at heading level 5. We saw that.
FDLRS technology.
Fiddler's technology meeting is at heading level 5.
FDLRS technology meeting tech tip Friday number 3: 5. New teacher and program supervisor orientation number 3: 5.
Okay, so if I wanted to go to immediately
leave a comment about us : 1.
If I was looking for about us and I wanted to immediately go there, I would just hit the enter key and immediately be taken to that place on the web page, and I will do that now.
Enter heading level 1 about us heading level 1.
And here we are at the very
Blank graphic divider image.
piece of information that we're looking for.
Blank FIMC-VI is a statewide resource center designed to assist schools.
So I am going to now show you another website, which is the actual Braille and audio reading downloads, the BARD website, which is used with the National Library Service, the Talking Book Library. And I'm going to show you a couple of other things, and then we're going to attempt to use another website, tbo.com, which is our local news website, to navigate an extremely complicated website with JAWS and trying to find the information that we're looking for. So let's load another website.
Control O, open dialog. Type the internet address of a document and Internet Explorer will open it for you. New tab page. Open colon edit escape. FIM Ulta menu bar. B activate B art main page. Enter leaving menus. FIMC-VI is a statewide resource center. Tab password shift tab email address edit. Type.
And we have Mary Ellen typing something. We'll see if she has a question. Or not. It'll pop up if she does. Oh, wait. One.
Such good information.
Such good information. Have to get a student. I'll have to finish up with the recorded version later. She says thank you. Thanks for joining us, Mary Ellie. Have a good weekend.
PORTER 6 5 at VERIZON period NET tab password star enter login button art main page foreign language collection heading level.
Okay, now we are on the Talking Book Library's main web page, and it's a little bit more complex than the FIMC's main web page. And so I am extremely familiar with this site, so I can navigate it very, very quickly. But the first thing I want to do, let's say, is I want to search for a book to download. So I'm going to see where the search field is, and I'm going to try to use the E for find the next edit box that we talked about on the last website, and see if I can find where to type in a search.
Search the collection edit.
Oh, it's the very first one, search the collection.
Edit.
So now the forms mode is on, and I will type in, we will search for something, let's see, why don't we search for Harry Potter and see if we can find any of those books in here.
HARR, what's the OTTER? Enter, go button.
And if you hit enter in that dialog box, it automatically presses the go button and exits forms mode, which is very nice of this website to do that.
Selection by keyword, display and
And now we've found some results here. Now, why don't we get a headings list and see what that does for us? So we're going to hit Insert 3 to go into the
virtual HTML features dialog
lists window. Hit H, because you can use first letter navigation in this dialog box, which means you can type the first letter of what you are looking for, and it will move the focus to that.
H, headings list.
And headings list is right there, so we're going to make a list.
Enter, selection by keyword, displaying items 1 through 79 of 7. Audiobooks, :1. And the title left, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, DB 48437:4.
We found some books.
Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, DB, Harry Potter and the Chamber of...
Now let's see if we want to pick one of these. We'll pick this first one here. It'll take us to that spot on the page.
Enter, heading level 4, link Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, DB 40. Blank, heading level 4, link Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, DB 40.
Now, we learned another piece of information, both in that list and both right here when we passed over it with our down arrow key, is that it's at heading level 4, which means the title is at heading level 4. So what we have is we have the author, we have some other information about the book, we have a little annotation, and we have a button to download this book onto our computer. So that's pretty convenient. Now, if I hit number 4 on my keyboard, let's see if we go to the next Harry Potter book.
Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, DB 64,400.
Yes, we did.
Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, DB 50,200. Harry Potter and the
So you can see how valuable using the headings on the internet can be after you've familiarized yourself a little bit with the website. And so let's pull up this HTML elements screen again, insert F3.
virtual HTML.
Why don't we look for links this time?
Links list.
And so we hit L for links list, and we're going to go into the links that we have
Harry
on this
Potter
page.
and the _Blood Prince, DB 6. Download Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Harry Potter and the _Blood Prince. Download Harry Potter and the _Blood Prince. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, DB 56,000. Download Harry Potter.
So we have the download links, and we have the book links as well on this screen.
Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Now, what if I'm just really looking for download links? Let's explore this dialog box a little bit and see what we have. I'm going to Shift Tab over to get to the beginning of it.
Shift Tab, sort links and tab order.
Okay, we have the first set of radio buttons here. Allows us to pick between sort links and tab order. And what that means is to sort the links in the order that they appear in the off-screen model, or when you hit the tab key to go from link to link on the web page. You can sort them that way, or we can pick the other one,
Sort links alphabetically.
which
Radio
will
button
sort
checked.
links
To
alphabetically.
change the selection, press
So
up
if
or down
you
arrow,
happen
plus
to
D.
know a link that you're looking for on a web page, particularly a really complicated web page, which may have hundreds of links on there, you may say, I want to find out if they have an FAQ. So you could sort this list alphabetically, and you could hit an F to go to the beginning of the Fs, and you could very quickly determine whether or not there was an FAQ link or something. That's a prime example of how to use that. The next set of controls
Tab, display all links. Radio button checked. 1.
is a set of radio buttons. You can display all links,
Display visited links
or
only.
you can
Radio
display
button
the
checked. 2 of 3.
links you
To
have
change the
visited in the
selection, press up or
past,
down it. Display unvisited links.
or
Radio.
you can display the unvisited links when you've never clicked on in the past,
Display all links. Radio.
or display all.
Tab, links list view.
Now we're
Go
back
to
to our
Braille link.
list.
Tab, move the link button to activate.
Now,
Press space
we
bar. Alt plus
can
F.
move to the link, but not click it, or the default action, which you can determine by hitting insert E.
Default button is moved to link.
Default button is moved to link,
Tab, activate link button
or
to activate.
you can
Press space bar.
activate
Alt plus A.
the link, which means you're not only going to go to it, but JAWS is going to click it for you, and you're going to, in the Internet Explorer will display whatever's supposed to get displayed, or take you wherever it's supposed to take you when you activate that link. So that's the choices in this dialog box that you have. So this is a pretty powerful way to find information on the internet.
I'm just going to jump in real quick. One of my students, whenever we'd call for tech support on certain things, if they had to go to a website and they were given directions, we'll go to our website, and I'll just use FIMC-VI.org, and you're going to go to trainings. So the student could kind of keep up with the directions. They'd use this links list box a lot, and it was very, very helpful, and it was a very powerful tool to navigate.
Okay, I'm going to
Move the link button. Escape. Harry
get
Potter
out
and
of
the
this, and I'm going to go to the bottom of the
Link
page,
logout.
and I'm going to log out of here.
Logout successful. New tab page. Logout successful. Page has 1 heading and 3.
One thing I forgot to mention before, I was going to show you when we were on FIMC's website, but I'll just tell you about it, is one thing where JAWS fails on that website is one of the things we looked at several times is the calendar. Some of those meetings that we saw in there were actually in April's calendar on the website. Well, JAWS doesn't do the calendar very well because JAWS puts the calendar in a list. And so it's got SMTWTFS at the top, and everything else under it is in a list. So you can usually figure out, if you pay enough attention to how it's laid out, you can figure out what days the events are on top of which the events usually have in the event description the day. But you don't know what day of the week that is because there's no way to determine, because the calendar has lost all of its formatting. And so it's just in a straight list. And that was one thing I was going to point out to you while we were on that particular web page. Now I'm going to show you a web page that is one of the most popular shopping sites out there, and we're going to do a little bit of shopping to show you how a blind person or visually impaired person can do that independently on his own. We're going to visit Amazon.com, but Amazon.com has done a nice thing for us visually impaired people. They have created an Amazon.com website that's accessible, and it's called Amazon.com/access. So we're going to go to that website now.
Control O, open dialog, type PAMAZON period COMM dash online shop /ASSCCES. Enter, logout successful. Amazon.com, Amazon.com, page has.
Okay, now.
Real quick, I just want to say, Darren, now do you guys notice how different this visually looks as opposed to the Amazon that you go to? Think about how much stuff is thrown at you visually when you go to Amazon.com, and look how much more streamlined this looks to us. Our sighted folks. What did you call us earlier, Darren?
Right. Also another tip that she just reminded me of streamlining websites, for if you ever are working with a visually impaired student with JAWS who wants to do things on the internet, find out whether or not there is a mobile website, or which is a website designed to use with a mobile phone or a tablet or something that just doesn't have the computing power and the speed to handle these big fancy websites with all the graphics and all the things. Like, for example, I know that Facebook has mfacebook.com, which is the mobile site for use with portable devices, and it again is a slimmed down, trimmed down website with not as much visual eye candy and things on there, because a lot of phones and things just don't have the power to display all that stuff in a reasonable amount of time. It would be too slow to download those pages. Those websites are also usually very friendly for screen readers because they don't have all the advertisements to get through and all of the visual effects to get through. So that's another tip if there is, and I know a lot of people a lot of major websites now are making mobile sites just for that reason, because so many people are surfing the internet on their phone. And so that's just another tip to use to find websites that are easy to navigate.
Navigation region.
Now,
link W, double click sign, link your account, link card, search region, go button.
What we're going to
type search keywords.
do is we're going to type a search keyword.
Edit.
And as you see, when I entered the box, you heard the sound, which meant I'm in forms mode. And we're going to search for televisions today.
Television.
And so I'm going to get out of that box.
Type search go button.
And hit the go button.
Enter go button. Amazon.com/television. Amazon.com/television. Amazon.
And we've got a search results now. So let's see how we can find the search results. Maybe they're at a heading. So why don't we hit the H and see if we can find anything that might be televisions.
Samsung UN32J4032-H.
Yeah, first try, we found one by hitting the headings button. We skipped through all of the search box and the navigation controls, and we skipped all the way down to the first entry in the televisions. So we have some information here.
Click by Samsung. $239.99. Click for product details. Link get it by Monday, April 11. Link free shipping on eligible orders. 44 offers from $1. Link 4.4 out of 5. Link more choices available. Separator. Blank. Link. Heading level 5. Link TCL32S3830.
Now we just also learned that this is a list of results and they're all at heading level 5. So if I hit 5 on my keyboard, I can quickly go through all these until I find something that I want to read more about, or possibly purchase. So I'm going to hit Shift 5 because I want to go back to the one that I was looking at first.
Samsung UN32J.
And we're going to hit, this is a link, and so I'm going to hit Enter on this link to activate it and see where that takes us.
Enter. Samsung UN32J4032-H720p LED TV left parent. Link your account, link card, navigation, main region, link Samsung, link 4.4 out of Samsung, list of 6 items, link graphic /510 pic %.
Okay, now, I want to show you where this website, although it's the accessible website, kind of fails. Because what we have run into here is we have run into a list of links which are numbers and letters and gibberish.
List of 6 items, link graphic /500.
From having Andrea look at this website for me earlier today, what she said these are photographs of the TV from various angles. But we have absolutely no way of knowing what these links do, and I'm sure if we click them, we're not going to have any idea what they do either. They might just probably enlarge the picture or something, I'm not sure. But as I arrow through these,
link graphic /50, link graphic /5, link graphic list end.
and then we have the
So it's all saying is link graphic,
and gibberish after that, because it does not know what these graphics are. And now we're going to
list of 6 items. Bullet.
Now we're going through another list. I'm hitting the down arrow.
Bullet.
And it's saying bullet
list end.
every time.
Link size chart.
And what Andrea decided by looking at the visuals on the screen is it's calling the dots that are under the pictures bullets, and it's put them in a list. And we don't have any idea what that would be for, in terms of description of the television. So we're just going to keep arrowing down, because sometimes you just have to ignore things that you don't understand what they are and see if you can glean the information you need from what you can understand.
Separator, blank, size colon 32-inch, separator, blank, style colon TV button, blank, price colon, list of 2 items, bullet, show price button, bullet, link Y, list end, link free shipping, and stock, wanted tomorrow, a ships from and sold by FI colon, combo box 1, ship to colon Tampa, FL33601 button.
Okay, so let me show you something else. So we have some information here that we can use. We
blank, checkbox not checked.
Got pretty much all the ordering information we need.
Blink yes, I want checkbox not blink add 3-ear protection for add to cart button.
And we can add it to our cart, and then we can go through checkout, which I don't need a TV right now, so I'm not going to add it to my cart.
Combo die colon.
But I want to show you.
Tomorrow in stock. Link free shipping. List end. Link Y bullet. Show price button.
Okay, this is one of these buttons that's going to show the price.
Enter show price button.
But, and now the price is shown, and I've searched for it and found it earlier today, so I know where it is. But this is one of those things that's relatively recent invention on the internet, which is where the internet part of the page has been changed or updated, but JAWS sometimes, and this being one of those times, doesn't know that that has happened. So even though I clicked the show price button, JAWS did not say the price. So now I've got to look around and see if I can find the price, which I know is right above the show price link.
Style blank.
So
price colon $179.
But this is another one of those little things that can be frustrating on a website, because it doesn't necessarily, and JAWS is off-screen model. Let's say you had a button that said show more details, and the details appeared maybe way on the right of the screen in another little window, or way at the bottom of the screen in another little window. It could be very difficult to find that information, because the off-screen model, as we talked about before, may have put it, lines and lines and lines away from where the button that displayed it was. So that's kind of one of the little bit of the problems that you run into with JAWS working on the internet. On some websites that use, I don't remember what that particular technology is called, but it's probably less than 10 years old, or maybe even less than 5 years old now, to be able to do that. But anyway, you can see that using this website, a visually impaired person could shop on Amazon and find something and put it in their cart. All the controls are accessible, and buy it and check out and type in their credit card information, and function just like a sighted person independently, and be able to independently shop. One thing that we have long not been able to do very well. Now, some websites are not nearly as friendly as this one. As a matter of fact, one of the blindness advocacy organizations, I can't remember if it was the National Federation of the Blind or the American Council of the Blind, sued Walmart because their website was completely inaccessible, and actually won in federal court and forced Walmart to make their website accessible, which was that's another very, very popular shopping website. And so they were actually successful in getting that done, and making Walmart make their website accessible. There is some standards for accessibility called W3C, which is the World Wide Web Consortium, is an organization that has established some standards to make websites accessible. The problem is there's no particular rules for a lot of private companies to follow those standards. So that's why some websites are not accessible. All government websites and government and community websites almost all have to follow that standard, or choose to follow that standard. So a lot of government
agencies that receive federal funding have to have
yes, they have to provide accessible websites. So if you log on to like socialsecurity.gov, or libraryofcongress.gov, loc.gov, or any of these government-based websites, I can almost assure you that they're about as close to fully accessible as they could possibly be, and that is a good thing. If we could get some of the other websites, because a lot of websites that are inaccessible for really simple little stupid reasons, like controls on a website have a little form that you can fill out when you attach the control to your document, and that little form has alt text in it, which is the text label for the control, and you can make that text say whatever you want it to say, and it can have a little help thing that you can type in what to do with that control. For example, enter your name could be in the little help text box. And so there are things, and people just leave them blank because they assume that if you see it on the screen and somewhere near it, it shows you, tells you, name colon, and then has this control next to it, that you know what you're supposed to type in that box. And so they don't bother to fill out the information that actually is attached to the control. They just assume that you don't need that. And sighted people, for the most part, don't need that because that's not something that is shown on the screen. But it's something that the screen reader can go get from the HTML code and read if it's available to read. So anyway, that is some of the things that we can do on the internet. And I think we might have time, although this crashed my computer earlier today, so we'll have to see. We're going to try to get on our local news website called tbo.com, which is tampabayonline.com, and we're going to try to look at a news story. Now, tampabayonline.com is an extremely complex website that has probably 200 or 300 links on the beginning page. It's very long, and it's full of advertisements. So it takes some practice with JAWS and practice with using these HTML controls in order to find the information you're looking for. So why don't we give that a shot?
Control O, open dialog. Type the internet address of a .e, type B-O, period, C-O-M, enter, price colon. TBO.com, Tampa Bay Online, the Tampa Tribune and the Tampa Times dash breaking news and weather, price colon.
Okay, now I'm looking for breaking news stories, and from a lot of experimentation earlier today, I know that it's at heading level 1, so I'm going to hit a 1 on my keyboard and see if it does it.
Loading, heading level 1 clickable, page has 21 frames, 9 regions, 118 headings and 630 links.
630 links this page has.
Third-party app JW player frame. Loading. Heading level 1 clickable.
As a matter of fact, it's still loading the page, so we're going to have to wait a second until it gets loaded.
http://
So you could have your students practice this even as a homework assignment. You could pick out like a static website, one that doesn't change all that often, like tbo.com. Like the headings may change due to changes in news stories. But if you pick something like AFB or FIMC, typically their headings may stay the same. A lot of their links are going to stay the same. So you could say, oh, go find the 3rd heading on this website. Go find the 7th link, or find the links that start with the letter H. So there's different ways you could have them practice this at home for homework as well as practicing with you and in the classroom.
Let's see, has it loaded yet?
Now playing heading level 1 clickable. Tweets from the newsroom heading level 1 clickable. Coming up heading level. Now playing heading. No prior headings at level. Coming up tweets from the no more headings at level 1. No more headings at frame. Blank. Blank frame. Heading level 1 tweets from the newsroom clickable.
Well, it's changed since I was on it this morning, so.
Title is tbo.com, Tampa Bay. Now playing heading level 1 clickable. Coming up heading level 1, heading level, tweets from the newsroom. No more headings at level 1.
Okay, well, let's look at a headings list and see if we can find what we want.
Virtual HTML features dialog.
Now,
List 1, list view, anchors.
I want to do headings.
Headings list.
And I want to do them in alphabetical order because I want to look for...
Shift tab, OK button to activate, press spacebar, Alt tab, cancel button, tab, list 1, list view, head tab, OK button,
we can't
shift
do
tab,
that
list 1, list links list, headings list, enter.
Let's see.
Heading list dialog. Headings list view. Newly hatched furry baby penguin. Shift tab. Display all headings radio but shift tab. Sort headings and tab order radio. Sort headings alphabetically radio tab. Display all tab. Headings list view. Newly hatched furry baby penguins are weighed at the Chester Zoo: 3, 120 C. Chase ends with Bertle C. Classifieds: (pha) C. Click here for more vid C. Clinton says he regrets C. Column : there is plenty to prove for both columnists. Coming up: 1. Community contact us: 4. V. Video list of 1 items. B. Best bets: Bill Clinton. Blogs and more. Boat parade. Boys Town rep. Breaking news list of 1 items. More list end: 4.
Breaking news. Let's try that.
Enter. Heading level 5 link. Click here for more video. Click here for more. Heading level 4 link. Breaking news. List of 1 items. Link more. List end. Blank. Heading level 5 link. SpaceX bag and delivery business with today's launch.
Okay, we have a news story here that I want to read. So I'm going to click this link.
Enter.
Did we crash?
Yeah. Internet Explorer has stopped working. A problem caused by the program to stop working correctly.
Oh, okay, well, see if I can stay connected here.
And while Darren's problem solving that too, I just want to mention that if you use a different internet browser, like for example Mozilla Firefox, there's actually different shortcut keys that you can use with Firefox to work a little bit better with JAWS. Because JAWS is has been mainly focused to work with a lot of Windows or Microsoft products. So Internet Explorer is a Microsoft product, so they kind of work a little bit better together, a little more seamlessly than with other web browsers. But if you actually type in navigation keys for JAWS, if you Google that, it can pull up Mozilla's shortcut keys or Internet Explorer's. So in case you're doing some of these things and you're like, it's not working, it might be because of the browser you're in.
Okay, I'm going to tab away from here and see if I can.
Alt tab. Job access with speech left parent. JAWS right parent dash and.
We can go back to the
Oh, go back to the screen. Okay. I will stop sharing Darren's computer now. This is it's meta. I'm seeing us in the screen. Anyway, never mind. Let me stop sharing and stop that. So anyway, it is 2:49. And so do you guys have any questions about navigating the internet using JAWS or any questions about using JAWS in general? Anything you want to know how to do in particular? Got somebody typing.
TBO.com: Tampa Bay on. Frame 16. Google underline at TBO.com. Alt tab. Job access with speech left.
Lisa says not at this time, but I plan to go through these webinars with my 7th grader and she'll get it faster than I will. Our students are pretty amazing at picking things up faster than we do. I always think about that with our transition to UEB, how it's a little bit harder on us, I feel. But anyway, that's great. I'm glad you'll involve your student in watching these webinars. That's a really good idea.
Well, anyway, as you can see, with the using JAWS with Internet Explorer, it's not perfect. And as a matter of fact, I think hopefully, my computer was a little bit too underpowered for running the webinar software and the TBO.com, although I did crash my computer running TBO.com earlier today for reasons that are beyond me. But that is such a mega web page that it just may be overwhelming my particular laptop that I have and running JAWS in the background and everything. So, but most websites, I mean, 99% of everything is going to work okay to get around. And as you can see, with the navigating HTML and understanding what the elements are, you can pretty easily get around and do things on the internet independently. And like I said, a lot of websites have some accessibility built into them. A lot of more attention is being drawn to accessibility now than in the past, and we've had some greater success as a blind community convincing people, for example, shopping people, that our money is as good as everybody else's, and we can't give you any of it if you don't make your website accessible. So a lot of places that uh, our shopping websites do have some accessible features that you can use on the internet. And I, one more time before we run out of time here today, would like to invite you, if you have not gone back and watched the first video in this series, to do so, because there are some information, much more information about JAWS and where to get JAWS and so on and so forth than we have done here. And there's the vocabulary, some of the words that we use today, although they're controls you may see every day, you don't know what JAWS calls them, or what the official names of them are. And Andrea did go over that last time, so that information is also there. And that information is important when you start working with a student, so that you understand what JAWS is saying when you are working with them. And that's the words that they're going to use, because I know, just talking to people all the time about various web pages or trying to do something on a web page, and I will say something like, I can't solve the CAPTCHA on that web page, and they don't know what a CAPTCHA is, although they've seen them hundreds of times and solved them hundreds of times. They're the little weird writing that's on the web, that's on the on some web pages of the verification that you are not a machine trying to create an account, usually that you are a human being. So, but they don't know the words. But when we're using a screen reader and JAWS is saying the words, we learn them very well, and sometimes use them in contexts that other people don't know what we're talking about. So it's kind of important to do that. If we don't have any other comments, I can give you the closing code, and Andrea can give you the survey, and we can move on. I appreciate everybody who logged in and watched this afternoon, and everybody who's going to watch it on video.
Yes, thank you. And before you give the closing code, let's do the evaluations. So let me pop on over to the evaluations real quick.
View votes button to activate with spacebar.
And go ahead and give us your feedback. We appreciate it. And this is information that we have to pass on back to Florida Department of Education to show that people needed this training or want more of this training, and that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Give another minute here. Great. 3 people. Okay, great. Let me go back to the sharing screen. Thanks for your input. Okay. All right, Darren, I'll let you go with the closing code, and we can let these people get on with their Friday.
You get out of the webinar 4 minutes early. That's good. The closing code today is READER, READER. And I'd like to remind you of your homework assignment if you choose to get points for doing this webinar. And I appreciate, again, one more time, you taking your time out to watch. Thank you.
Oh, and I'm going to add Darren's email in here. It's at FIMC-VI.org. In case you need to email him with any questions, and feel free to email or call me as well. I think all of you that are on here have my email address, but I'll put it in here for those that might watch it later.
great Friday.
So have a great Friday, great weekend. You are welcome, Lisa. Lisa attends a lot of our webinars live, and Donna Hendricks too. Sheila, Sarah, I've actually all four of you have seen you on quite a few, so we really appreciate it. Thank you for your support and coming to learn.
You too. Take care.
Yes, you too. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.